Hello book lovers, welcome to Uncommon Reader. I'm Daniela and I wish you happy new year. Are you ready to face a long January? Well, in case you're not, Emily of the Linguists Library and myself are coming to the rescue with a brand new original tag that will perhaps inspire your next summer vacations or maybe simply just daydream in this dreadful month of January. Are you curious? Well, let's embark in the journey of La Bella Italia Tag. So we start the year in style, taking you to beautiful Italy. Welcome! 10 iconic places in La Bella Italia inspired our literary journey today. But fear not, your book choices don't have to be related to Italy at all. In fact, myself as well, I didn't pick all Italian books. Forget the blues, tag others, and let's all have an adventurous and romantic January. All our prompts are going to be paired with book genres, so it's not going to be too complicated to find an answer. Prompt number 1. All roads lead to Rome. Let's find an historic or historical novel, which is actually one of my favorite genres. For this prompt, I immediately thought of a beautiful historical saga of an Italian family, which became kind of an international bestseller. So I read on Goodreads. It was pretty big here in Italy. The Saga of the Florio family. It consisted in 2 volumes. I'm going to show here the first volume that's been translated in English. And this is a very intriguing saga because these 2 brothers, the end of the 19th century, after a very violent earthquake in the region of Calabria, they decided to move to Sicily, where they started a little business. They had sort of like a pharmacy or an herbal shop. But these 2 brothers were very talented, so they expanded their businesses. And throughout the book, of course, we'll be following the next generations who will contribute in expanding their businesses to become as well merchants, and they were exporting a lot of Italian goods abroad. But of course, we don't follow just their business steps. The book is infused with all the passionate love stories and intrigues in the family. So it was a big success in Italy and probably elsewhere. I'm not sure you know about this book, so I would suggest to give it a try because it's a very enticing story. And also, this was a real family, so the writer did a lot of research to put all these things together. But also, I'm sure that a lot of little touches are added here and there to make the novel more enjoyable as well, especially when it comes to the love affairs, I assume. Prompt number 2. Wherefore art thou, Verona? You were expecting another name? Well, yes, let's dive in the Shakespeare world of Verona, which is a beautiful city that inspired the Romeo and Juliet, of course, to Shakespeare. And I'm not going to go too far answering this prompt, which is suggesting a romance book, a literary fiction, or ill-fated lovers. And I have something right for this prompt set in Verona itself. And it's kind of related to the Shakespeare play, but not quite. I would actually call this book kind of a prequel, a twisted prequel of Romeo and Juliet. The author, Natasha Solomons, is one of my favorite contemporary writers, and she wrote Fair Rosaline. So Rosaline was Juliet's cousin who had a love affair with Romeo before he met Juliet. But if you loved Romeo, I mean, get ready to be really troubled with how Romeo is portrayed in this book. And I dare say no more, but I did enjoy. I kind of have a feeling that Shakespeare himself would have kind of enjoyed the twisted plot in this book. So give it a chance. Prompt number 3, Florence, Brushstrokes and Botticelli. Of course, we compare this to books about art and music or artists. So I fall back to Natasha Solomons once again because she is such a versatile writer, and I met her for the first time with this book, Mona Lisa. I think I mentioned this on a previous book tag as well, but since many of you are new subscribers, I want to talk about this book shortly because it's so original. Here, the Mona Lisa, the famous Leonardo da Vinci painting, takes life, and as he's drawing the Mona Lisa starts talking from the canvas, and Leonardo is aware of that. He realizes that this painting is talking to him. The story of the Mona Lisa is that the woman portrayed didn't like the painting, so she refused to buy it from Leonardo. So Leonardo took the painting with him for the rest of his life. The book is about the story of this painting, and we hear from Mona Lisa herself from when she was born, let's quote, to the present day. And so we follow her even after Leonardo da Vinci dies, through all the centuries until she's now at the Louvre. And I'm going to give you another little spoiler. There will be only one other painter that will be able to hear the Mona Lisa speak when he visits the Louvre. But of course, I'm going to tell you who it is. So check out I, Mona Lisa by Natasha Solomons. Let's move to the fourth prompt, Sicily, myths of Mount Etna. And the genres we want to pair this with are mythology, fantasy, and sci-fi. So when I think of mythology, which is the thing that I'm drawn more among these three genres, I think of retellings. And my absolute two favorite retellings for mythology are Circe of Madeline Miller, which is such a beautiful and human portrait of Circe. Love, love, love. And the second one is definitely Clytemnestra or Clytemnestra from Costanza Casati. Costanza Casati was actually born in Texas, but she moved back to Italy and she studied ancient Greek and ancient Greek literature. So I feel that's why probably her book is so complete. I've read about Clytemnestra in other retellings, but her book I found was really the most comprehensive of also her previous life before she met Agamemnon, and she had a previous husband, a child, and her life has been a sequence of very tragic events, but such a strong woman. And unfortunately, she's considered one of the mean characters in mythology, but with all she went through, I really don't blame her for wanting revenge and killing her second husband at the end. So justice was served. So moving on to prompt number 5, the Bolog Chronicles, and we're going to pair it with the food-themed books. It could be fictional or non-fiction. Okay. The Italian one is not picking an Italian book in this case. I know, weird, right? Well, I've chosen a French book, but not for the food. The book I thought about was The Ingredients of Love of Nicolas Barrault. He usually writes these very light and fun love stories. Some of them are definitely forgettable, but this one I found was really nice. And it's sort of like a comedy of errors. And this book is about this young girl that has lost her dad, and her dad left her his restaurant, and she runs it, she's good at it, and then she will meet a boy, and then there'll be a very complicated love story that everything will, of course, end well. But the fun thing about this book is that the restaurant was named Le Temps de Cerise, the cherries time. And one day I was actually in Paris. I just had visited the Picasso Museum, which is in Le Marais district, and As I was walking, I found myself in front of this corner where there was this restaurant called the Tombe de Cherise. So I was like, "Oh my God, it's the restaurant of the book," and I didn't know it really existed. And so I took a picture, of course. I don't know if I can find it, but in case I will just add it here on the screen. And so it reminded me of that book. It's actually read also the sequel, but the sequel wasn't too good. Prop number 6, From Sardinia with Love. Let's pair it to a thriller, an adventure, spy, or heist book. I decided to go with the DaVinci Code by Dan Brown. I think this series is really awesome. It really takes your attention. It's a page turner, and what else? A page turner when it comes to adventure, right? We all know about Robert Langdon, who's a Harvard symbologist who is always involved in solving mysteries, and we know also very well the movies, right, starring Tom Hanks. So I don't think I have to say more about it. So I love this series. Prompt number 7, Venice in a gondola with Casanova. Of course, we're talking about love here, but forbidden love affairs. And immediately this book came to mind, Damage by Josephine Hart. I read this many, many years ago. Actually, this is a 1991 novel. And it was made into a very dramatic movie with Jeremy Irons and I think a very young Juliette Binoche. So the story is about this woman who is meeting her fiance's dad for the first time, and the two fall in love, and so it will lead to a very dramatic end. The book is very intense, but I think also the movie was really doing justice to the book, so I loved both. Prompt number 8, Naples Never Sleep. Pair it with a mystery, horror, or gothic book. So I first thought of In the Name of the Rose of Umberto Eco, which is one of the modern classics of Italian literature, but I actually never read it, so I felt like it wasn't fair. So I thought about what Gothic is about. It comes from England, right? Or at least I think it comes from England. And I found a perfect match. The Sin Eater by Megan Campisi. I think the novel is from 2020. I think so. So this is the story of May. She's a 14-year-old orphan. She receives a life sentence for stealing bread. Because at that time, you would, if you were probably older than a child, you would maybe get killed for just stealing. In this case, she is sentenced to become an apprentice to an older sin eater. So a sin eater was actually someone that would be called up to hear the final confessions of the dying and eat ritual foods that would symbolize the sins that these people that were dying committed. It was actually a sort of a rite, a funeral rite, so the people dying would be forgiven for their sins. One day, though, the two sin eaters are called upon someone dying in the royal palace, and the older sin eater refuses to eat deer heart that was symbolizing a sin that the person dying didn't commit. So she refused, but she was arrested, tortured, and then killed. So the poor May is left alone, only at 14 years old, and she wants to figure out why the sin eater refused to eat that deer heart, and she will investigate on her own. And so we find out that she's actually a very smart character. She will discover a conspiracy at the palace, and the plot becomes very, very intriguing. Also, what I enjoyed about this book was the transformation of May's character from a fearful child to a very clever young woman. I always think dearly about this book. Prompt number 9, Tales of Torino la Magica, Ghosts and Legend Stories, Novellas, Short Stories, Plays, and Folklore. So you've got a lot to choose from. I was drawn to the ghost genres, and so I chosen Her Fearful Symmetry by Audrey Niffenegger. You might know her from The Time Traveler's Wife, who also was quite a successful movie, I would say. And I did read that book too, but I did enjoy Her Fearful Symmetry way, way more, because it's the story of two female twins who live in the USA, and they find out from their mother that their aunt, who is their mother's twin sister, they didn't know about, that they inherited a flat in London. But there was a catch. They would have to live in the apartment for a year before selling it. And so they moved to London to spend a year in this flat. And there they meet very weird characters and also someone's ghost. And I'll leave it at that. The book is a page turner, this one as well, and it's quite frightful at some level, and a very, very twisted end. So let me know if you read it. It's a very fun book. Last prompt, although we do have a bonus one. Musing in Milan, any genre. You can choose any genre. So I've chosen a classic, an Italian classic. It's called The Betrothed. We used to study this book at school. That's why in Italy everyone hates it. Unless you reread it as an adult, and then you'll love it. I don't know what it is. I haven't reread it yet. But I'm going to rely to Goodreads because it's been decades I read this book. So this is what Goodreads says about this book. One of the most influential works in the Italian literary canon and a required reading in Italian schools. Published in 1827, but set 200 years earlier, it is considered the first iteration of the historical novel. Edgar Allan Poe in 1835 declared about this book is a work which promises to be the commencement of a new style in novel writing. The novel is the story of two young lovers forced to flee their village after a dangerous and powerful man threatens their marriage and their lives because he wanted Lucia for himself. But Manzoni draws on historical events to weave a much wider web. He brings to vivid life Spanish occupation during the 30 Years' War, the bubonic plague, famine, politics, religion, poverty, class tensions, and a colorful cast of characters. Indeed, I remember some of them, some frightful, some very funny, all of which provide an unforgettable portrait of Italian life and society at those days. Well, I've always said to myself, I need to reread this book. I don't think I'm ready yet. I might give this book a try. Well, and about this author, actually, I recently read another book that's not been translated in English yet, but it's actually about the lady that helped him rewrite The Betrothed, because the first edition was not very successful. So he called upon the tutor of his nephews, because she was from Florence, and Florentine dialect was considered what then became the Italian language later on. And so she was from Florence, and she thought, okay, maybe she can help me refine my writing, because many of the words I used in the first edition were more like on the dialect of Milan oriented. And that's why I chose this for Musing in Milan. So La Correttrice, or the secret editor of Manzoni, Emilia Luti, was sort of a proofreader and helped him rewrite The Betrothed. And this book I really enjoyed because it sheds a light as well on Manzoni as a human being, a very good family man, and also the fact that he worked with this lady in such a harmony, and he was so polite and nice. So I think I got to warm up to Manzoni, which of course as kids we couldn't stand because we were forced to read it. And so that's why I felt like, okay, maybe I should give this book another try. And here's a bonus prompt if you want to do it. Postcards from Italy. Choose a book set in Italy. And I did have one that I've read in 2024, The Glassmaker of Tracy Chevalier. This book is set in the island of Murano near Venice, where the glassmakers make their magic. And magic this book is because this family mysteriously lives very, very slowly, actually ages very, very slowly. For centuries, they will go through the changes of the Renaissance, and then the Napoleon invasion, and the industrialization, and then the arrival of technology. So this family will adapt to all these changes, and we also follow their personal endeavors, their love stories. So it's a beautiful portrait of how the island of Venice and Murano changed through the years. So I would definitely recommend this historical novel. And it's over. I hope you enjoyed this tag, and of course I have too many booktubers to tag to mention them here. You will find your names down in the info box, but if you don't have a channel and would like to have fun with it, please, why don't you add your choices in the comments below? All right, I look forward to chat with you in the comments. I thank Emily again for this fun tag. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I look forward to see you soon here on Uncommon Reader, because I have a very special video on Tuesday, as I am looking forward to do this challenge tag, which will also unveil some of my reading choices for the new year. For now, take care. Again, Happy New Year, and I'll see you soon. Ciao!